I used to believe in organic content, the fact that you could create content in search engines and referrals, and people would pick up that content and you get traffic to your website. Here's why that doesn't work anymore. Hey, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. If you're writing content for your clients and the content you're creating is meant to convert leads and create sales, you've got it halfway there. But many of your clients will believe that content alone is what's going to drive traffic to their website, keep visitors returning, and drive their underlying business. And here's why that's not true anymore. Back in the day of article marketing, for example, there wasn't a lot of good quality content on the internet. This is the 90s. Even before that, actually, when I first got on the internet in 1989, all the content was super academic. It was government documents. It was academic. It was real subject matter experts creating content. In the 90s, we started to get marketers creating content, and it worked really well to create articles. I had several blogs at the time. I had content that was basically helping people find stuff on the internet. So I wouldn't have to be the primary creator. I could create the content and point to a resource, and my content was like the quick, easy version of the more in-depth research, and that's really why it worked, because what was available was very detailed. There's also a lot of paywalls up at that time because really good content always supports being paid for. But then we get to 2000. In 2000 through 2010, articles still kind of work. Content marketing worked because search engines didn't have the level of artificial intelligence that they have today. And so they would have to rely on meta keywords, meta descriptions in order for content to match. It wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. It's now 2021, and content marketing alone, just creating content on your website, doesn't work for niche sites. It doesn't work for detailed areas where you have the topic isn't already in the mind of your consumer. Now, it does work if you've got mailing lists, if you've got a magazine or publication with a large readership. But starting from scratch right now, content marketing alone is not going to get you the volume of traffic you need to generate leads and to produce sales, at least not in an efficient way. So what's the right solution? Well, it always is the same thing. First off, if you can identify an audience, you've got a clear avatar, that'll give you the information you need to then find mailing lists and publications that already have your kind of visitor. At that point, you can either get mailing lists or you can rent email lists through services or you could do guest posts. It's really getting your content in front of people who already have an audience, then getting that audience off of that platform to your website, converted into a lead. Now, once they're on your email list, you can then get them in a nurture sequence. You can get them back to the website. Gone are the days where someone would land on your website and simply buy something. There are too many options today. There's also such a high volume of traffic going to the search engines primarily, and then getting dispersed over millions and millions of articles in the popular topic areas. Now, if you do have like a micro niche where you're writing content specifically for people you've called out and you've done a great job on your website of helping the search engines find that audience match, then great. But search engines know more than they've ever known about what's going on. You've got beacons like Facebook, Twitter, Google Analytics. You've got major services. So for example, you may not have known this, but most of the WordPress plugins are actually embedding other data capture beacons on your site that are helping to build a profile of an audience. That profile of an audience, they know that people visit your site and you have an 80% bounce rate. You can work all day long on creating content to reduce the bounce rate. You can do gimmicks like showing a preview of the content and making someone click a link so that they have one more step, and that lowers your bounce rate. But the gimmicks don't work anymore. But it always works to determine who your audience is and go directly to them. Now, I've worked with individuals who, for every podcast they do, they go into their database of leads, or they rent a mailing list, or they do something to send a postcard for every episode to an audience. Now, that means that when the person clicks through on the postcard, which click-through is extremely low, it's as low as it is for pay-per-click, when somebody clicks through the postcard, there has to be something on that other end that gets a lead, gets a conversion, gets some transaction. Otherwise, you just can't break even on that. Same thing with pay-per-click. Same thing with social. Everybody's dreaming about social. I've actually cut all my social accounts. They were such a waste of time for targeting high-income professionals. High-income professionals are not even on LinkedIn because these platforms are meant to sell advertising for their purposes, not creating organic traffic for your purposes. So again, when you're working with a client and they want you to write content for them, and maybe they've been getting people to write $40 articles and stuff, that's not going to get them sales. It'll get them frustrated. They'll spend more money. You could help them writing clean campaigns that have multi-channel driving of traffic up front, that have pages that are going to convert to leads. So they land for the podcast. You could have an opt-in right there, or you could have the podcast and an opt-in right below it, or a sidebar opt-in. But the key is all of that has to be aligned. So they come to a podcast, and one of my websites, for example, talks about ecological solutions for the homeowner. Well, they land on a podcast that's talking about how to keep your grass green all year round without hiring a service. And it explains how they can be surprised by the results, even though it takes less work and less inputs, and how the natural polyculture system of lawns is more stable because it handles different zones of shade versus sun. All of that has got to pitch an opportunity to get a tip sheet out of the podcast itself. So at the end of the podcast, it's got to say, hey, I've got a free information resource that if you click the link below or you visit this website, you're going to get this resource. It's got to drive that lead. The page itself that they land on that's the kind of the goal of your campaign, you're measuring the action. Well, that landing page has also got an opt-in that's relevant to the topic at hand, not just some banner you're rotating on the sidebar, but you actually at the end of that article have the same offer that's in the podcast saying, hey, we've got this unique tip sheet that's going to help you have greener grass year round with less work, fewer inputs, and ecologically sound solutions. So it's got to really get them in. And the copy I'm just throwing off at the top of my head isn't necessarily the best copy. You've also got to help your clients A/B split those so that you can know which is the best content. And loop it back around, title testing for the article itself, so that if you pick up any organic traffic or any click-through traffic on the site, you have a better idea of what topics work and which don't. Everything you learn about the conversion on that landing page then is a second step for your client to go back and tune their pay-per-click, to go back and tune their audience matching on their social media buys, to even sending out postcards to subsegments of their larger list. Because a postcard could cost you 40 cents. And if you send it to your entire list, that's not so useful. You want to send the postcard to anybody who hasn't opted in or gotten that free report, who is in the specific demographic or target audience that you want, and you need to send an A/B split on the postcard. So you might pull out 250, you might pull out 500 individuals and send 250 people one postcard and 250 another postcard. And again, it's got to drive back to a monetary offer. So that postcard might not go to the same landing page that just simply has your podcast and then your little offer. Or if that landing page is converting, your podcast, show notes, specific offer on the back end has email offers, but also has the trigger so that you know you can send the next mailing sequence. See, content marketing and organic traffic is exciting because it sounds like you do one thing and something happens. But the truth of it is, in 2021 and beyond, because the search engines are getting smarter, because there's so much content out there, because the algorithms can monitor the whole transaction. They have a beacon on your website. They know that people land on your site, they don't get results, or they bounce. They're not going to send people to you. Again, they want people to come back to their platforms. They want people to come back to their advertisers. So what do? We become advertisers, but we often need to help that client understand it isn't just one touch and done. It's a campaign. You're going to make more as a copywriter, marketer, or business development professional doing actual campaigns. Now, the good news is you can go get a good high quality mailing list. You can get a good high quality audience match. You can get a good quality place to start to get that initial action. Then you can measure the landing page and measure the conversion and determine whether version A or version B gets the conversion. You'll be able to boost your traffic level up higher because you're not getting the organic. We used to be able to do topic testing simply with organic traffic. For an industrial website, for a high ticket site, there aren't that many people searching for that content. There aren't that many people who read articles about their particular area, but they might watch a video. And that video embedded on your website, driven by a short form video to your website for the long form information, and then an opt-in or an opt-in before. All these things you can help your clients decide. You can help your clients test, and you can make sure the structure's in place. So again, if you're just writing copy, you get $40 for an article, and you can write hundreds of articles, and your customers are going to keep chasing the cheapest article. But if you're a professional, you're going to get in there and help your clients with, what are you going to help them with? Building out the campaign, making sure they have a good, solid, measurable campaign. That's 2 pay-per-click articles to A/B split. That's 2 postcards to A/B split. That's 2 landing pages to A/B split. That's a back-end series with a welcome letter, upsell letter, and then some kind of stick letter that keeps them on your list because you want to then transition them to a prospect newsletter. And whether it's a print newsletter or it's an email newsletter, if it's print, you need to find a way to capture the postal address. And if it's an email newsletter, you've got to have some teasers in there so that you can keep bringing them back to other content. All of this together segments the lists so that now you can do better audience matching. Now, we could talk for hours about the tips of how to use your thank you page in order to get finer tuning on your audience match. We could talk about how to upsell on your thank you page or do other things that are value add to your clients. But none of that matters if you're not getting enough eyeballs in front of the page itself. And in fact, if you've already got a mailing list or the client's already got a mailing list, you can actually do small, short letters that send people to the long form content on the website or that same content in a different medium. It could be a DVD, it could be an audio, and that tends to work really well for high ticket items. It's a little bit more costly up front, which of course justifies investing in a copywriter, marketer, or business development professional, but ultimately helps you reach people in a way that might be more connecting to them. Big decision makers for your client are not surfing around on the internet all damn day looking for free content. First off, they understand the value of their time. Second, they know that because of the volume of content out there, they're not going to find the good quality content that you're creating. So how do we help them? We bridge the gap. Again, it's not like the 90s where you could just put out some articles. You could just put out some blog posts. Today, it could be a full-blown podcasting series. It could be demonstration videos. It could be recycling longer form white papers or longer form training videos in order to get the customers who are for your clients, their customers, someplace where they can make a decision to become a prospect or make an inquiry or a decision to purchase. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. I'm here to help copywriters, marketers, and business development professionals grow their business to serve more clients, to get better results, and to transform business relationships into profits using words that sell. If you have questions, you can visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. That's adbriefings.co.uk. Contact us, ask your questions. Thanks for listening.